Hi, I'm Jay.
And I'm John.
And we're Bucket List Travellers.
And in this video, we'll answer the question, how expensive is travelling in Croatia?
So we're going to share our complete cost of living in Croatia from the 3 months we spent living in Croatia. And this is going to include accommodation, food, transport, Croatia travel tips, and a whole lot more.
So firstly, why visit Croatia?
We spent 73 days living in Croatia and we absolutely loved the country. So from the beautiful scenery, the spectacular beaches and the Croatian Islands, to the food, which is just so beautiful, all the seafood and the regional specialties. What else did we like?
Yeah, well, we were pleasantly surprised by the desserts as well. There's some amazing Croatian desserts that you have to try there.
Oh, definitely. And the old towns are really beautiful as well. You've got Dubrovnik, which is very famous from the TV show Game of Thrones. It's known as King's Landing in the show. So you definitely have to check that out. But all of the old towns throughout Croatia are really beautiful as well.
Yeah.
It's definitely something you should put on your bucket list.
Now we're going to break down our Croatia travel costs for you, starting with accommodation. Now all our costs will be in euro. Currently the currency for Croatia is kuna. However, that's going to change over in 2023 to euros. Just another thing, at this point in time, at the time of the video, euros are basically equivalent to US dollars. Our accommodation per person per night was around 18 euros.
We mainly stayed in studio-style apartments and we found those either in Airbnb or Booking.com. So the cost per night turned out to be around 34 to 42 euro per night is what we paid. Now you can get a wide range of accommodation in Croatia, from budget accommodation all the way up to luxury. For dorm accommodation, for one person for a bed, you'd expect to pay somewhere between 10 euro to 40 euro a night. For the more mid-range accommodation, expect to pay 25 to 200 euro a night for a room for a couple. And for luxury accommodation, you can really pay anywhere between 100 euro to 600 euro per night for a room.
Yeah, so the more expensive accommodation that we found was in Dubrovnik. So that seemed to have much higher rates of accommodation compared to the rest of the country.
And if you want to know more about traveling in Dubrovnik, we've got a whole Dubrovnik travel guide on our website, jjbucketlisttravelers.com. So go and check that out for more information.
What we did find generally when we were traveling through Croatia was that the standard of the amenities was really high. So in our apartments, we always had a dishwasher, we always had a washing machine. The apartments were really modern as well and newly renovated. It was a really high quality, which we really enjoyed.
Yeah, and the internet standard was also pretty fast most of the places, not everywhere. So if you're a digital nomad, then Croatia is perfect for you. And they do have a digital nomad visa in Croatia, so that's something to keep in mind.
A few accommodation tips for you. So the prices do vary a lot depending on the season. So the peak season from June to August is where you're going to get the most expensive accommodation costs. So for example, the accommodation that we stayed in Split is roughly twice what we paid in July. So it really varies a lot.
Yeah, so we highly recommend taking advantage of Airbnb weekly discounts if you're staying for a longer period of time. And we also got a monthly discount when we stayed in Split, which was very handy.
Yeah, and if you're after apartments, also look at Booking.com. We were surprised to find that prices on Booking.com for apartments were just as good, if not better, than Airbnb in a number of cases.
Yeah. In saying that, we've also got a loyalty bonus with Booking.com, so that helped with our prices.
Another thing with Airbnb is that it is possible to negotiate your rates, especially in the off season. Now, we were successful with that and we were in Croatia between March and May.
So there is so much Croatian food to love. We have done a couple of dedicated Croatian food videos for you if you're interested in learning about them in more detail. We've got both a Zagreb food tour as well as a Croatian desserts video. But some of our favorites were the seafood, the squid and the mussels, the tuna, and the desserts are really good as well.
Yeah, you've got to try the kremšnita zagrebačka in Zagreb. That is so
good.
Yummy.
Yeah. So if you're going to a restaurant in Croatia, expect to pay 10 to 25 euro for a main. If you're going to more of a local eatery or a cafe, then you can expect to pay around 5 to 15 euro for a dish. And you can also get some pretty cheap food on the go from bakeries. So we loved the Croatian bakeries. They're called pekaras, and the must-have Croatian bakery dish is burek. So it's a pastry, it's filled with either meat or cheese or even sweet things, and they're usually about 1 to 2 euro each. So really good, cheap food in Croatia.
Yeah. Now, we kept our costs down in Croatia by shopping and cooking most of our meals ourselves. So just a few tips on that side. Lidl is a big supermarket there that is most affordable, we found. There are also other local supermarkets like Tommy that was quite competitive with Lidl for fruit and vegetables, but a bit more expensive in other items. So our total cost per day per person for eating out was a bit under €3, and our grocery bill was a bit over €3 per person per day, which worked out to be a grocery bill of around €44 a week.
So for transport around Croatia, it is really easy to get around. There's a lot of public transport. There's buses to take you between different cities and tourist spots. There's ferries to the islands. There's flights, a lot of airports throughout the country. You can get Ubers, you can get taxis. There's even Uber Boat during the peak tourist season. So there's a lot of options to get around the country. For buses in Croatia, we used Flixbus. Now that company is very popular in Europe. They've got a very extensive network. You can book tickets online. The buses are pretty comfortable and they're very punctual as well. And if you want to know more about Flixbus, you can find a link in our video description. We took buses when we went overland, and we took ferries between the different Croatian islands, and we found them to be very comfortable, very reliable. Now, the ferries during peak season do get sold out, so do book in advance if you can during the peak season, because it does get very busy. We were there in the shoulder season, and even then the ferry was pretty full, but we didn't need to book too far in advance for that. And I think for one of the ferries we booked on the day, and that was fine.
So just breaking down our costs for you. So our buses from Zagreb to Zadar and Zadar to Split were €13 per person, and each bus ride was around 3 hours. So our catamarans from Split to Hvar and Hvar to Korčula, they were around €5 each, and they were about an hour in duration. And then finally, our Korčula to Dubrovnik catamaran was around 2 hours in duration, and that was around €9 per person. Now we're going to talk about activities in Croatia. Now, we didn't do too many paid activities, and this saved us a lot of money.
Yeah, there's so many free activities to do in Croatia that you really don't need to pay a lot. So there's beaches, there's hikes, there's walking around the old towns. There's so much natural beauty around you that you could easily spend your time just going to the free things and not really pay for too much, which was really handy.
Yeah, so that said, we did pay for a couple of activities when we were in Split. So we went to the Game of Thrones Museum, and then we also went to the subterranean cellars of the Diocletian Palace. Both of those were around €5.50 each. We also went kayaking on the islands of Hvar and Korčula. So on Hvar, it was a fair bit more expensive. It was €53 for the day, and in Korčula, it was €25 for the day.
Yeah, and we highly recommend going kayaking when you're in Croatia because it's just a beautiful way to see the country. We really enjoyed our time doing that. You can do much more expensive activities. You could hire a boat and just sail around the islands if you really wanted to go the more expensive route. And around Dubrovnik, a lot of the activities are quite expensive. So if you wanted to walk the walls of the old town in Dubrovnik, that's around €33. So it can get quite pricey if you don't keep your eye on your budget. In saying that, there's a lot of free activities as well. So Croatia is a really good place to do medical tourism. The costs are pretty low by European standards. And because we're full-time travelers, we're always on the lookout for where we can do our dentist checks and skin checks and that sort of thing. So we did a few of those checks while we were in Croatia.
Yeah, and so we did those in Split, and the cost for the dental checkup was €46 per person, and for the dermatologist, the skin checkup, that was around €53.
We thought the quality of the services was really good. So if you're thinking about medical tourism and you want to know where to go, consider Croatia.
Yeah. In terms of other costs, there are no border crossing costs, which is good. And then in terms of COVID costs, you don't require a COVID test to go into the country or to leave the surrounding countries, Montenegro or Slovenia. Our total Croatia travel costs worked out to be around €27 per person per day. For the whole 10 weeks, that worked out to be a bit under €4,000.
We hope you enjoyed our Europe travel guide about Croatia on a budget. And if you did, be sure to hit that like button and leave us a comment.
And if you like content like this, we have plenty more Croatia travel vlogs for you. If you want to follow us on our bucket list journey around the world, then don't forget to subscribe.
We are Bucket List Travellers.
See you next time.